It's my great pleasure to introduce today's speakers. J.D. Perham has over 10 years of experience as a sales engineer at Acronis. He currently works with some of the company's largest enterprise customers. That's a segment I care deeply about in my role as a solutions marketing guy at Acronis. He helps them develop, deploy, and maintain software to ensure system uptime and business continuity. He's not just about large enterprises, though. His expertise also extends to working with small and medium businesses, really, I think, the wheelhouse of most of the service providers in this room. So he really understands the complexity of needs that can range across a very wide range of deployments. Kelvin Tegelaar is the founder and tech blogger at cyberdrain.com, which is a tech blog oriented at MSPs and IT pros. Any readers of Cyberdrain in here? All right, we got a couple of fans. That's good. That's good. Well worth reading, I'd say. So Kelvin's scripts, presentations, and knowledge are used in almost every RMM product out there, and that has helped earn him his 3 Microsoft MVP awards. When he's not blogging, he's a partner and CTO at Lime Networks BV, where he handles the strategic and technical operations there. Kelvin enjoys helping other MSPs achieve success by making scripting more accessible and easier to understand in the hopes that all will embrace automation. Kevin's also the founder of the website sip.app, which is a multi-tenant Microsoft 365 management application that is used by over 1,200 MSPs today. Over to you guys.
Yep, cool. Awesome, thanks everybody. So we're gonna break today down into 2 different little sections. We're gonna go over our advanced management pack. So y'all are probably familiar with our advanced pack. Advanced management covers our patch management aspects of it, as well as our cyber scripting, which Kelvin will be going into a little bit later. Jumping forward a little bit into it, why we want to talk about these couple of different things. Service providers, you have a big challenge. Candid this morning talked a lot about it, right? Malware is growing at an increasing pace. If you look at the average time to patch, it takes about 102 days for a customer to implement a patch into an environment. Now, with that, knowing at how fast malware is getting out there, all those vulnerabilities that are not being covered by those patches can lead to massive infections. If you look at the stats, 60% of most cyber attacks have actually been done by an unpatched software solution. There's more than that, though. More than just the security aspects. There's a lot of different scenarios as far as like planning. How do we make sure that we get this patch deployed correctly without impacting business? How do we ensure business continuity during our patch cycle? How do we make sure that the correct patches are being deployed? A lot of these companies are not utilizing automation to get these patches done. It's a manual process, or if they are doing it, they're only doing it for very specific, small subsets, like the operating system. The key with Acronis is we can start layering on a couple of different pieces inside of here, starting with our vulnerability assessment. That's included with all of our solutions. And then on top of that, when we start adding advanced management, we'll actually push through and start adding our patching capability on top of that. And the key behind this all is it's, again, one agent, one solution, giving you the capability to control everything from one platform. So going into the patch management automation, one of the big keys here is we can automatically approve those patches so that when their next scheduled session comes up, they'll automatically be pushed into the device itself. Now, given what we're utilizing, you can come in and have that be, or skip the automation and have it be automatically applied. So if you do a vulnerability assessment, for example, and find out that there's a very high risk situation that we need to get taken care of now based off your risk assessment, you don't have to wait for the automated system to do it. You can actually come through and do it for you, or do it automatically. The other aspect is you can control what patching you want to be pushed down to the devices. So if you want to keep with a specific level of, say, Java, right? That way you're not breaking your customers' applications. You can absolutely do that within the console, and you can do it on a per device basis based off our protection plans. And then on top of all of that, we also include our scheduling aspects. So if you've touched our backup and recovery solutions, you know how simple and easy our scheduling is to do. So you can go through, set those same kind of schedules as part of that protection plan, and get those patches pushed down into the devices themselves. Now, the biggest concern, when we push a patch, what happens if it breaks, right? We don't want to impact production at all. So that's where fail-safe patching comes in as part of our solution. So this is going into our unification, having one agent, one platform, one capability. We can actually tie our patching process itself directly into our backup process. So before a patch gets applied to a device itself, it can go ahead and take a backup as part of your backup policy. And then if something does happen, you can automatically roll back. If anyone has ever dealt with a process controls type environment, right, this is called change control. You've got to have that backup before you can go and make any changes to these production systems, because if production dies, you're not making money. So being able to simply integrate that directly in really saves you a ton of time. You don't even have to worry about a technician going and hitting the run button on the backup. It's all just part of that same schedule as part of the patch automation. Jumping a little bit sideways here, right? One piece is our vulnerability assessment. We cover over 200 different applications. Well, there's a lot more applications than 200 different applications out there. So one thing we can do to help you track what's happening on the devices or what's happening in your customers' environments is both our hardware and our software inventory. Hardware inventory is included with every platform that we offer, right? So you're going to be able to get that reporting right out of the box without having to apply advanced management. But as soon as you move up to advanced management, software inventory gets added, and we can run reporting to show you exactly what platforms and what software is installed on all of the assets that you're protecting. With that protection, you can then do reporting, make sure compliance is in line, and then the same kind of idea of monitoring to look for vulnerabilities, things of that nature that you may need to patch that's outside of our solution. And then drive health monitoring, right? So this is getting more into our being proactive. Being proactive with patching, being proactive with our vulnerability assessments. With our agent, we can automatically pull the smart data directly off of the device itself. With that smart data, we utilize our MI to determine whether or not that hard drive is going to fail. If you're dealing with critical systems that have to have uptime, knowing when a hard drive is potentially going to fail is key. You can kick off a backup, make sure you've got that backup taken, do a planned maintenance instead of having an unplanned outage where you're going to have to deal with downtime and the repercussions that come from downtime. And with that, I think we're actually going to transition over to a scripting demo.
That was fast.
I go really fast.
All right, perfect. Okay, hey everyone. Today we don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to super deep dive into automation and all the things you can do with it. I'm going to show you some things that you're able to do with Acronis Cyber Cloud and get some useful stuff out of it as general use cases. I'm also going to try to help you all understand a little bit more about dry concepts. And the dry concept is pretty simple. It's don't repeat yourself. So every time that you create a script, you don't want to redo the entire work each time. That's just a waste of your time. I'm going to start with showing you a little bit of a demo on how you can use Acronis Cyber Cloud to run specific scripts, but then I'm going to dive a little bit into some code. That code and the instructions will all be uploaded to cyberdrain.com, and you can download the examples and check them out there after the show, so you don't have to take a lot of pictures or try to remember everything. So let's get started. I think we should have, yeah, perfect. Okay, so let me start with the most boring presentation material anyone can do. Raise of hands. Who has used scripting plans so far? That is 2 people in the entire room. Wow, impressive, guys. The scripting plans are a way of running scripts within Acronis Cyber Cloud on your endpoints or on your workloads, as they're called in Cyber Cloud. It's kind of the same way that your RMM system currently runs script, but you have a little bit more power. And most of the power comes from the script repository, which I'll show in a minute. It's very simple. You just create a scripting plan first, and from that moment, you're able to run it. I'll just run this script right now, but this is also running on a schedule in the same way that you would approach it with your RMM system or with any other tool that's able to run scripts. We can now go to monitoring and activities and actually see that the script is pending or running on my device. I'm actually running it on this device right now, so you can see how fast you can actually retrieve that feedback. If you click on it, you are able to see exactly what happened. But this screen doesn't really give you a complete overview. And that is one of the things that you'll, as a technical mind, you'll want to deep dive into. Here you only see, hey, what is the exit code? And you'll have to download the output and actually check that out. You're able to use this output or to influence this output a little to make sure that you're actually getting a complete picture instead of just a random exit code. I'll be showing you that right now. And now I'm going to show you guys some code, and I hope it's big enough. Yeah, that should be good enough. So let me start with that dry concept I was telling you about first. So everyone here probably creates PowerShell scripts. I expect that everyone here that uses an RMM has a bunch of these scripts that are running either for monitoring or fixing things at your client, or maybe even running patch management outside of your standard patch management windows or stuff like that. And in a lot of times, you see that scripts are made with this example. You're seeing that someone does something, they're executing something, and then they're executing another code block, and then they're executing the same task and actually executing the exact same code block again. And this is very, very difficult to read at first, and it also makes your script unbelievably long and unmaintainable. Imagine that if I want to make a change in this here, I want to change attention to attention, and then I have to change each of these script blocks over and over again, and that's just annoying. So for this, the concept "don't repeat yourself" is introduced. Make sure that whenever you work with cyberscripting or with any type of scripting, that you functionize everything, and instead of completely writing that same block of information multiple times, you just make sure that you make a modular module that is able to run that specific type of code over and over again. In this case, I've reduced my code by almost 20 lines or something like that, and that helps a lot in managing your entire infrastructure. And the reason why I'm managing your entire infrastructure is because this scripting library isn't just something that you run on your servers, or isn't something that you just run on your devices that you think are important. This is something that you can run across your entire fleet of devices. Now, the dry concept is just a handy tip, something to hold your hand. Like I said, we have the capability inside of Acronis Cyber Cloud to retrieve these exit codes. And again, these exit codes are pretty much meaningless to anyone but a technician that's very trained in exactly what went on. So for this, I've created several functions. And like I said, you don't have to take pictures or copy them right now. This is all going on cyberdrain.com. You can download it, where you can use cyberscripting to actually create readable output error logs that you'll be able to see directly in the interface. Instead of having, oh, something went wrong, for example, this is the information you normally get. Yeah, something went wrong. Instead of that, you can actually get complete information with a date or with a specific severity level. Sometimes you don't want to react to something. Sometimes you know that, oh, hey, if this drive, I already know this drive is breaking down. I just want to perform a disk cleanup on it. Let's just generate a warning instead of an error. And you can use these examples, or these little PowerShell snippets, as they're called, to make that all a little bit more clear inside of your Acronis Cyber Cloud. Now, I want to go back to that scripting library part, because this is something that most MSPs struggle with. My MSP struggled with this for the longest time, and that is because we had a moment where we moved RMM systems. And moving RMM systems sounds very easy, but then when you start doing it, you start noticing like, oh, I'm missing this feature, oh, I'm missing that, oh, I'm missing that. So about 10 years ago, when we moved from our first RMM system, Playmobil, my first RMM, to an actual RMM system, we noticed like, holy crap, we're going to miss so much information if we don't start approaching this in a different way. So instead of just putting our scripts or using the scripting tool that is in the automation system, we made our scripts completely RMM agnostic. And by doing that, we made sure that we're just executing PowerShell everywhere for all of our clients, something that Acronis Cyber Cloud can help you with. The great thing about making it all that agnostic is that it becomes a copy and pasting exercise to move between RMMs, you think. It's not exactly that simple, because there's still a lot of other side use cases. There's stuff like, hey, versioning. Who has managed this script last? Who has changed this script last? What was the last change made? How can we be sure that not a bad actor has created a new script and put something in there and just called it, this is a new version of that existing script? It's all things that you have to really keep in mind. So, the script repository, which is a pretty awesome tool in Acronis Cyber Cloud, allows you to create your complete own repository of scripts all in one single location. That means that this could be used as the single source of truth for all of your scripts. We all know that regarding administration services or CRM, we all consider our PSA the single source of truth. For documentation, we look at our documentation system or sometimes something like SharePoint and we say, that is the single source of truth. This is where I know everything should be correct. This is the state I've left it in. Should be, at MSPs it's always a little bit in flux, of course. So this script repository can be used to actually influence your RMM scripting. And I'll have to explain that a little bit more. So what you're currently doing, most of you, myself included for the longest time, you're executing scripts directly from your RMM. Instead, it's time for a rethink in that. It's time to no longer think of your RMM as the place where you put the scripts, where you store the scripts. You want to store the scripts externally, somewhere where you can actually manage versioning and these kind of things. No RMM that I know of currently has decent versioning support where you can just compare the two scripts. And Acronis Cyber Cloud does allow you to do this. For example, I have this VSS script that I changed the version of this morning. I can just click this version history button right now, and I can actually see like, hey, suddenly I have a version 2. I can actually restore the older version and compare it to the version that is currently in the scripting library. Now that's super useful to roll back a script that went wrong, but also to see stuff like, hey, someone changed a script they shouldn't have changed, or just an internal bad actor. I mean, there's enough companies out there that are now, or enough ransomware companies and these kind of things that are paying your employees, hey, please change this script to this, so I can get into these machines without you even knowing. So instead of calling scripts directly from your RMM system, it's safer, easier, more convenient for yourself and more manageable to start running these scripts as an external resource. And actually that's a great feature about the scripting library because there is a fantastic API available, and I'll show that part right now. Here we have the function get cyber script library, where you're able to actually use the API to download a single script and execute that using your RMM. And that means you no longer have 10 different versions of 10 different scripts in 10 different systems. It means you're using the Acronis Cyber Cloud library to retain and version a single version of that script over all of your systems. You no longer have to look for like, hey, Johnny had a slightly better version of this script that I want to execute. I'll have to go ask him and I have to go call him on a holiday because this client needs it right now. There's no more of that. You just use the Acronis Cyber Cloud as your single source of truth for all your scripting capabilities. And that means that you're able to easily move RMM systems, but you're also able to easily retain all the information of the changes in the past. You're able to actually guarantee that your RMM is running the correct script and that there's no one getting in between. Now, a lot of these features in Acronis Cyber Cloud are pretty cool. You can use it to monitor your own devices. For example, here I'm monitoring if snapshots are available, and if they're not, or if they're less than the minimum, I generate an error code. But you can also do some cooler stuff. For example, imagine you have a backup-only client. You have a backup-only client, and the backup has been failing for a week. You're starting to get annoyed because you're seeing that the device uptime is 900 years, because we've all seen that. So instead of having to ask the client, like, hey client, please reboot your computer because we're seeing the backups are failing, simply because you keep forgetting to reboot your machine. Instead, you can actually use cyber scripting to just send them a message like, hey, just give me a second, I'm clicking around. You can actually send them a message like, hey, you actually need to reboot your device. there's a reason why we're giving you this pop-up. So if we wait right now, it should only take a couple of seconds. We should be getting a toast message. Let me just enable my notifications. There we go. Oh, there we go. And we got a beautiful toast message. Message from your IT. I cleared it. I'm sorry. I'll just run it again. But you get this beautiful little message from your IT department saying, hey, please reboot your device now. Make sure you reboot or else we'll force a reboot. And they even get a little button for themselves. We want to reboot our device. And that's scripts that you can run just from Acronis Cyber Cloud. So you don't need to have a fully managed client with fully managed your RMM on it. You can just run these tiny little snippets, these scripts that are all in the library. To just say, hey, I want you to reboot your device. I want to check your IP information. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And that way you can still have some control over devices you don't even have in your fully managed workloads. I think that's all I wanted to show you today. Like I said, all of these scripts, all of this information will be uploaded to cyberdrain.com. You can just see the snippets, you can copy and paste them, change them, do whatever you want with them, not use them at all. In case you have any more questions, I think we have some time for a Q&A.
Yeah, we have enough time. Or alternatively, they can always come up to the booth too, because we can show them the scripting aspect. We can show them the patch management aspect as well. So.
Perfect. So if you guys have any more questions.
Yeah, if there's any questions, we've got time for one or two.
No questions? Oh, of course, Frank.
They're bringing you a mic, so.
Are you looking at potentially using these scripts even for like monitors as you're pulling them from the repository?
Currently, I do not see a way to directly use scripts as monitors per se. There's no solution for that in Acronis Cyber Cloud, but you are able to use this as a central repository in other RMM systems that do execute monitoring, and that is what I strongly advise.
Yeah.
That's actually what I was referring to. Since we use the same RMM, I was wondering, are you using it for monitors or just jobs? Oh,
yes,
fantastic.
The answer is yes to that.
Yep, with it being able to pull out and drop to an output somewhere, that could then be ingested by pretty much any other platform, right? So that gives you a lot more flexibility. Again, Acronis is just acting as an engine to execute those scripts for you.
Any more questions? Am I that good at explaining things? Come on, come on, you could have had a chuckle. That was funny. Okay, perfect. Then I guess we are done.
I think we are done, yeah.
Perfect.
I think we will hand it back over to James Sleeby.